Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Thank you once again for tuning in to our talks from Project Global experts about AI in project management. I'm really pleased to say that I've got a new person who's talking from a new continent today. So, Abhilash, thank you so much for your time. Would you like to just give yourself a quick introduction?
Hi, thank you so much, Lal, for inviting me. Thank you so much. Have a good start of the day, having a conversation with you. I'm working with Ernst& Young, and I'm working as a bespoke project implementation lead here, wherein I work along with SAP teams, working across different clients in implementing different satellite applications that works side by side with SAP. And these projects range from mobile technology to web applications. Uh, because of this whole AI buzz, a lot of AI stuff is also something that we have been doing. So yeah, that is my primarily role here with Ernst& Young. And we're also doing a lot of different project management related, internal brainstorming with clients because the clients have different landscapes. Uh, I personally deal more with domestic clients. So yeah, a lot of domestic experiences is something that I'll be able to share.
Fantastic. Well, I really look forward to hearing more about that and obviously working at a prestigious company like EY and hearing what their plans are around AI and project management. I noticed you said this buzz about AI and project management and if I may, I was quite intrigued with that term because for me, and I wonder whether you support this, it's beyond a buzz. It's here to stay, as it were. I wonder whether what your thoughts are about that and what sort of applications you see for AI in project management.
So yeah, so I think why I called it buzz is only because today, if we look at the market and when we speak with clients, the maturity level to understand AI and specifically Gen AI, or let's say, AI in project management, that maturity level is not there. And the C-level executive teams, or let's say the IT infrastructure teams, they are not very much equipped with the informations, right? So it's kind of a learning curve that we have to work with, and and it starts from how you plan a project. Your how you can actually have AI planned in a way that it gets introduced while you are planning a project, while you are executing it, and when you're managing it post delivery. So looking at the client, trying to understand their infrastructure, IT, business landscape, and then to identify the right places where AI should be incorporated, right? Because considering AI is something that every CIO would like to, opt in, there is a limitation of they being ready to opt in AI or not. And that assessment is very much important. And a right output of AI can only come if you place AI at right place at right time. You just can't do it all in at once. So that
Yeah,
was
it's
where it was coming from the buzzword side.
yeah, no,
Right.
I hear you. It's quite interesting that you're saying about Gen AI is relatively early in the adoption curve. I mean, certainly if you believe what you read, as it were, it's beyond that early adoption as well. So I was quite intrigued to unpack that a little bit more, and also your point about appraising its best use. Do you mind just exploring those two points a little bit further, Abhilash?
Yeah, of course. See, so I would not say, when it comes to project management, it is only some specific tools in the market that you might need to use, which are AI driven. I think around project management tools, there are a lot of different project management activities that involves use of AI, and then to build up on top of it and then substitute it with the AI tools that are in hand with us, right? So a lot of Gen AI tools. So I believe that because of Gen AI, the project management teams have really started involving themselves in AI utilities, whether it is creating minutes of meeting for a stand up, or let's say preparing for a steering committee meeting or something like that. So uh, you know when we started working back with clients wherein we wanted to leverage AI, we wanted to make them learn how they can utilize AI to to have a project success together. We introduced a lot of tools that started integrating into the core applications for project managers. So let's say if somebody is using Atlassian Jira, someone is using Asana, how to actually educate their business teams to start coming on these tools, or let's say to use their tickets and create a retrospective presentation for their teams. All of that is something which is it is I would still say it is not in a matured state today, but it's not either in an early stage, because we have been having some form of AI since very long now. I think more than
Mm.
10 years now. So that AI has been evolving, but the true AI adoption, the push from the client side has been happening because of this whole Gen AI thing coming around.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I hear you. It's like an awakening, isn't it, from late 22, probably with the advent of ChatGPT as well. It's great to hear that, and I quite like that term utilities as well. I haven't heard anybody else refer to it as utilities, but I think that's quite a good summary of some of those, easy to access use cases, as it were. You mentioned minutes and steering preparation and retrospective presentations there. I'll just go back to this assessment. Is it a case that when you start with a new client, you look at the potential of the use cases, and then how do if you do that, how do you determine which use cases to focus in on?
Specific to project management or in general?
Yes. Yeah, it's about project management, obviously. Yeah.
Yeah, so see, again, I think the very most important point is to first assess the maturity level of the client. What kind of AI adoption do they have? Do they have the tools in place or not? If they do have tools, how many people are using it? Is it only the IT people who are using it? I mean, if you go to a manufacturing company, the company is run by all the operations, sales, and the production people. The IT people, they work as a back end framework for them, right? In that scenario, if the IT team has the exposure to those tools, and the existing teams are still working on Excel sheets, or a very standard way of operating through daily stand-ups, but that is not organized via a tool, then it becomes difficult. And we definitely interact with such clients who don't have any kind of tools in place, right? So we introduce them with Microsoft projects families. We introduce them with Jira and all of that. So the first point is always to assess the client, their maturity level, to interview their people, right? Right from their business people who are going to give the input on the requirements, to the IT people who will be able to, bridge the gap between the business requirements and the technical functions. So the first thing we always do is to assess these teams, these business users and the client, different stakeholders, and then we do an assessment of the project as well. A lot of times you may not need a very large size project management tool, right? A client might run on Asana very well rather than Atlassian. If you really need those kind of tools in place, or if you, let's say, need to have something like GitHub Copilot, right, wherein coding can also be something that you can utilize. You can use AI to automate certain level of your functions and codes. So you have to really assess the client, their maturity level. You have to assess your project cost, and the timelines, of course, because if there is a learning need for all of this, the tenure of the project may not be same. If you're going in agile, that mindset of the client needs to be there,
mm,
so that they agree to these iterative way of exploration, wherein exploration is not only on the product which we are building for them, it is also how they are going to manage it. That is also a learning experience that they have to address while planning a project. So
yeah. Yeah, it's interesting that you're talking about assessing the tools and the maturity. I definitely understand that. I think one of the things you said there that perked my interest was about the mindset. The mindset of companies that are attempting to adopt. And what jumped into my head straight away is, Abhilash, well, that is kind of a balancing act because how do you get the pull from the company? Well, that's through establishing credibility and case studies of success. And if you then go back to, well, is it kind of early in the life cycle of some of this? You are asking for somewhat of a leap of faith from those customers. Are you finding customers are willing to take that leap of faith, or how do you justify getting to that right mindset, as it were?
no, so I think there are a lot of good use cases already in the market. Uh, Considering that the CIO forums are pretty active now, people have started connecting across the industry. So they have learned that these things have started working. The push is always from top to bottom, at least in India, right? The
Mm,
C-level executives are always willing their people to start exploring these tools and to experience these tools so that their outcomes are more efficient. The mindset is very different at the lower side, right? Because they are very much adapted to their traditional form of working. So to break that and to bring them on a tool, or maybe to form a project management tool team from the client side,
mm,
it definitely needs a lot of motivation and a lot of training, right? Because when there is anything new, specifically, I'm telling you from the domestic Indian market,
yes.
the perspective is why to add another overhead. And then we go back and tell them that, the project assessment in terms of whether it is going in right direction or not, whether the project will be completed on time or not, whether our planning as team, as business and the service providers, are we planning it in a proper way or not? All of these can be
Mm,
tracked, which was not possible
mm,
before. It
mm,
used to take a lot of time if we do it manually.
mm,
Today, the check-ins that the developers are doing, the tickets which are getting logged, or later in the stage when the bugs are coming and how it is
mm,
getting completed, or
mm,
the
mm,
issues
mm,
are
mm,
getting resolved. All of this is being tracked beautifully, right?
mm,
And
mm, mm, mm.
considering how the these tools are becoming intelligent in identifying those tickets which I would say are not clearly explained well, so that developers can understand that this what exactly to be done in this ticket. A lot of time, a lot of to and fro used to happen there as well. Now the tools can
Mm,
tell you that the business user is writing X. When the developer
mm,
will read something, he might not be able
mm,
to get it right.
mm, mm,
So
mm, mm, mm,
we, we get a gate check there, and that gate
mm,
check is something which is helping the
mm,
communication, the language, a similar
mm,
language is getting built between business and the development teams, right?
mm, mm, mm,
Because
mm,
today
mm,
in the agile scrum, all the developers are also actively involved. Unlike before, when the
mm,
project
mm, mm,
managers
mm.
used to speak with business users and they go back and translate it to developers and they deliver it, that things have started changing. I think it has
Yeah.
changed a lot.
Yeah, yeah, I've seen lots of sort of memes, if they're called memes, about, person X says to person Y to person, and it's a Chinese whispers all the way through. Really interesting that point about intelligent tickets. And have you seen that risk-free, that process, or has there been times where, that still sort of happens, the misrepresentation? I mean, how good are those systems, Abhilash?
See, a lot of applications have matured enough. So, I have seen the assessments earlier, 6, 7 years back versus today. They have dramatically improved. Uh, I can tell you how we have started using it. We have started relying on it. So there is a trust factor that has came in, and products like Atlassian and Mike. So recently, Microsoft projects along with this Copilot capabilities, it has started giving a lot of good use cases in project management. So I think, of course, that fear of doubting every output coming from these systems, that has started fading away. We have started relying on them a bit. I would not say fully, because of course that transition will definitely take some time,
Mm,
but
mm, mm, mm.
we have started at least giving it a try every time, right? So whenever a ticket is logged, we definitely love to see its assessment, whether it is written it properly or not. We also compile all the tickets together, and we ask models to see, does this make sense to build a product? Do you see there needs to be an adjustment in the timelines, and plus the risk assessment, of course. Something is missed while ticketing something, so that flags needs to be there, and there are quite places wherein, because the system is learning from our past projects as well, right?
Yeah.
So uh, we utilize systems like that. Otherwise, if the client has given the system themselves, then again it's something that we start from scratch. The system
Yeah.
is not aware of our previous historic ways of working. So that's the gap.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah. Well,
risk is there, but yeah,
yeah, I
it's
think I
going.
think what I think what you're saying to me there is in the early days you ensure that there's adequate guardrails, I think is the phrase coming in. The human's still relatively in the loop, but over time, it is starting to be trusted. Do just give me an idea of that duration, it takes from scratch to that moment where you think trust is of a reasonable level, because I presume there's efficiency savings there as well.
Yeah, of course. I think approx 7, 8 years. So since 7, 8 years, so I have been referring to Atlassian because I think in most of the projects, in almost 60, 70 projects that I have personally delivered,
Mm,
Atlassian was a product that we have been using, right? And
mm, mm, mm,
we
mm.
have seen that over the period of time, things have improved in last 7, 8 years.
Yeah.
Uh, if I specifically say a critical use case for us, it has always been, charting Kanbans for us. One of the critical use case that we we are very much relying on, or we're practicing it, is charting our Kanbans,
Yeah. Mm.
and also to have an assessment of the timeline mapping with respect to the user stories that we have defined, and all the tickets that we have created. So that is something that we have been using it very diligently always. The
Yeah.
second is assessments of bug versus a lot of times. So I'll give you a background. A lot of times client used to report bugs. The problem with bug reporting is that, according to client, it is something which is not working as intended, hence it is a bug. But it might be something that, in the requirement phase, it was discussed and decided like that. So they reported a bug, and while reporting a bug, the system knows that, this is not bug, because in the requirement phase, this is
Yeah.
something that was identified as an
Yeah.
action, right? So it flags it there. And the client, now we have been teaching our clients, seriously on this, that utilize this feature, and you'll be able to really see through that, is it actually a bug, or was this a functional gap? If it's a functional gap, then
Yeah.
you need to treat it like that, right? So this is the second
Yeah.
use case that we have been using a lot, and in past couple of projects, it has really given us a fantastic result. This
Yeah.
is this is a
I
recent
can.
addition to our portfolio of using AI in project management,
Yeah.
but this is a
I,
fantastic thing that we have
I,
been
I,
using.
I, I can imagine that might bring in some debate as well, the difference between new requirement and bug, and, that sort of whole, oh, I didn't really understand, but I wanted it. But I just want to go back to these use cases a second. And we talked about, there's an efficiency gain. And without being specific, give us an idea of the benefits of these type use cases. What is the efficiency gain?
With respect to the use cases that I was referring to.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so see, the very first benefit of uh, the I we call it, it's something that saves times at every level. It took me a second to think about it, but it
No
actually,
problem.
it's not the eventual time saving. It actually saves times at different levels of interactions. Let's say if the bug is reported, if the client is aware that this is not bug, uh, that level of discussion that we might engage in, it will save time, right? Usually, it's a 1 day process, right? A bug
Mm,
is
mm, mm,
reported
mm,
to
mm.
us. We revert back saying that, this is not a bug, and it's a functional change. And then you have to provide evidence against it. That whole
Mm, mm,
process
mm.
eats up at least a man day, right?
Mm, mm,
And if
mm,
the
mm,
client is
mm.
satisfied, it is good, which is not the usual case. The client
Yes,
would
yeah,
definitely come back saying that he recalls something else. And then
absolutely.
that's an iterative discussion happens, and then you actually invest couple of days, and it's not only one person, because let's say the feature was dependent on one person of your scrum team, and then there's a project manager is there, and then there is a PMO at the client, and there are multiple people involved, and let's say you invested 3 or 4 man days there. So the saving
Mm.
of 4 man days, when you look at from a project perspective, these smaller savings eventually brings up to few man months savings,
Well, I was
right?
going to say, when you multiply that by the number of bugs, I don't know what the typical volume of bugs is, but it's more than one, isn't it?
Right,
So,
right, right,
yeah,
right, right, right.
yeah.
So yeah,
Um,
that.
I, Obviously, it's fascinating to hear about the application of AI in software development type areas. Is there other elements that you've come across in terms of, when we started the conversation, you were talking about the plan, deliver, and operate, as it were. Is there other areas where you're excited about the application of AI in project management?
Yeah, one of the recent use case we did, I can share a bit about it. the client used to do a traditional requirement, business requirement documentation. So they have an internal process before they onboard a client. They themselves create a complete BRD document, right? Now, this business requirement document is usually a very lengthy document that a client creates, and that becomes a baseline for us to define or break down how to develop a project, right? Now, when it comes to converting their requirement in a plan, right? We have utilized a couple of tools there, wherein we did the assessment of the plan that they submitted to us. Uh, it was kind of I would say it was kind of an experiential experiment that we did,
Yeah.
but it really gave us some benefit in terms of how we used to plan, because it actually divided the BRD document into different user stories automatically, which actually saved our time because we had to only rewrite few of them, which we were not very much satisfied with. But it
Yeah.
actually saved a lot of time in actually writing those longer user stories, and then
Yeah.
creating tickets out of it, and then eventually suggesting how short that sprint needs to be. Right? If it's a 4 week sprint,
Yeah.
how you need to split that. So we utilize a couple of Gen AI products for that, and it gave us some output. However, there's one very critical issue with that.
Yes.
Considering that client data is very sensitive, right? You just
Yeah.
can't put your client data anywhere, right? So sampling out information consciously and then to utilize that to plan something is a hurdle. Right? It's a challenge
Yes.
today,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. Well,
and
especially if it's into the wider world, as it were, large language models rather than on-prem language models. I was also thinking as you were talking there, it sounds like a fantastic use case, and you've got efficiency savings to capture the use cases. You've got efficiency savings in terms of creating the plan. I was also thinking things like, once you've got those use cases, certainly I've seen some other use cases where you can then automatically create things like the test scripts, and dare I say it, even the code as well. Have you started touching on those sort of subsequent steps with that
yes,
sort of stuff?
I think test scripts are something that has matured a bit. This is, I guess, a comparative to other things. It is comparatively more matured for us because using even the GitHub Copilot is fantastic from that standpoint. We were able to test a lot of different stored procedures and functions using AI, right? It creates a flow for you. We utilize UiPath as well,
Yeah.
and there's a separate team for that. But they utilize AI for all of these functions, and AI has actually reduced their time to write those scripts and test things. So
Yeah.
those standard manual testing have really the overall percentage of manual testing have really reduced, and the automation testing, they have been automated so well by the AI that actually the manual automation script creation is has decreased a lot with time. So yeah, that is, I think it is now widely used as the most efficient use case, I would say, where the test scripts are more matured in terms of how LLMs are built today. They understand codes well. I think they don't understand the languages well. The linguals that we have, the local linguals we have, the way we write English, the LLMs don't use those local intelligence to train themselves. So that's where the gap is more. With testing the code, I think it is more efficient, and I
Yeah.
think it's used widely.
Yeah, so thank you for that. That's really interesting. Again, efficiencies. You started touching on some of the drawbacks there, thank you for introducing those. I mean, what's your concerns, Abhilash, with the state of play, as it were, and even those concerns, do you see them being mitigated, as it were?
See, I think we have been evolving rather with a lot of limitations every day. We started, pushing. So we have an internal AI system, right? We have a governed model that we use in EY, and we use it for a lot of different activities, for official purposes. And the issue is that over reliance on a lot of development activity has given us setbacks a few times, uh, because when you onboard young professionals, or let's say early professionals, their experience is limited, but considering these LLMs have now given them a wisdom to take actions on anything, any sort of problems, right? So at times, uh, you need that level of experience to choose the outcomes of an LLM, right? And the early stage developers, professionals, they have relied on it without assessing that outcomes, and that has been a very big limitation. Even to use an LLM, you need a mind, right? And that we realized over the period of last 2 3 years, that an AI can give you a code, and you can simply copy and paste that code. But you need to look at that code from your overall architecture standpoint. Uh, GitHub Copilot is there, but definitely, the people to use GitHub Copilot, there's a need of pre-existing knowledge that you need to
Yeah,
apply to drive
yeah,
Copilot properly, and that is lacking. And the people, because the LLMs are now so much widely accessible, everybody is simply using these models, and we have been asking our people not to use these proprietary third party LLMs. Do not put your data there, because there are privacy concerns, there are governing concerns as well. And that is I think the biggest challenge that we all are facing, because we have to keep up with the pace of AI, but at the same time we have to be sensitive about the intellectual properties of our clients,
yeah,
the and the wisdom of our own learnings, right?
yeah,
If I am a
yeah,
Python coder, I would I would need to learn Python well, right? I
yeah,
can't say that I can copy paste Python codes well, right? So you need
yeah.
to have that preliminary experience. And once you have the experience, then you utilize these LLM models to to improve your efficiency, is something
Yes, yes,
is
yes.
more
It's
important.
very, very interesting the point you're making there, being reactionary, and you're seeing, the junior who can't necessarily steer the LLM in the correct way. And I can imagine that's a delicate challenge. On the one hand, you've got the potential of efficiency versus naivety, if that's the right phrase, and getting that balance right, I'm sure is very interesting. Comes with training programs, comes with organizational structures, and all of that sort of stuff. Look, Abhilash, we've been chatting away for well over half an hour now, and I think we could keep talking, but I do need to start bringing the conversation to an end. If I may, if there was sort of one big takeaway that you'd like our listeners to hear from you about this advance of AI in project management, what would it be, Abhilash?
So I think the primary takeaway that I always have with me, and I recommend to my clients as well, is to not shy away from using AI. Uh, the AI definitely needs to comply to certain levels of rules that you must identify and define before you opt in, but you should definitely opt in. It's a time when, people can use AI to improve their efficiency if they use it smartly. And when it comes to project management, I always say start with making presentations using AI. Presentations are the easiest form of thing which you can rely on, because you need to simply read, prove those 6, 7, 10 slides. At least start with that. And eventually, you can bring all different teams and departments together to use AI well. But don't shy away in using AI
Perfect,
for your
perfect.
project management.
I I love that. Don't shy away. You must adopt, but use it smartly. Abhilash, thank you so much for chatting this morning. Really, really appreciate your insights there. In particular about the software development processes and how that is evolving through the benefit of AI. So thank you once again.
Thank you so much, Royal. Have a great day and thank you so much. Thank you, everyone who would be listening, and have a great day.